Tara, as a time management expert, why do most of us struggle with time management? And what are the main mistakes you have seen your clients make when they're trying to manage their time efficiently?
That's a loaded question, and I feel questions, and I feel like I could go for 45 minutes, our entire podcast,
Sure, sure.
on just answering that. Um, because I'm really passionate about the fact that I truly believe that anybody can achieve their goals and the life that they want to live if they just understand what to do on a day-to-day basis with their time. And I've had a really lucky opportunity to be surrounded and working very closely with very successful, high profile people. And I've always used that time around them to be like a sponge. So I always am so fascinated of how they have built their success and maintained their success. And taking those lessons that I've been able to learn from that and actually allow people to understand that anybody can do it. And the Beyoncé's, Taylor Swift's, Drake's, Mick Jagger's of the world, they're given, and we hear this all the time, the exact same 24 hours in a day that we are. So how are they building success? Like, are they winning the life lottery, or is it just like they're lucky and they know who to ask for what, or are they actually creating valuable results with their time? And I truly believe they are creating valuable results with their time, and they know how to spend their time. A lot of times when I talk about different techniques of what these celebrities are doing to maintain their success, people always come back at me and say, well, they're millionaires, billionaires. Of course they can delegate or outsource or whatever. But I actually don't believe it's about the amount of money that they are spending. It truly is like exactly what they are spending their 24 hours in a day on and concentrating on. So that is the fundamentals, in my belief, of time management. It's, not necessarily can I shave 25 seconds off of this task I'm doing. Or when the pandemic hit, I know a lot of people were like, oh, great, I don't have to commute to work anymore, so I can save all this time. But what were people doing? They were getting up 2 minutes before they had to be on a Zoom call. So, are you really spending your time more valuable, or is it just like you think you are because you don't have to do this other task? So yeah, I think the real fundamentals of time management and how anyone can manage their time is really breaking down into, what do I want to do with my life? What is my ideal situation? And what can I focus on right this second to actually move the needle forward in that big goal?
Yeah, that's interesting what you just said, and I I can see, I can definitely see how people would react the way that they do. It's like, well, it would be, I mean, it would be a lot easier if I had all that money, sure, right? But none of them have started like that. I mean, they all started from nothing, or at least most of them started with nothing. And what do you think are the sort of principles? Because as you said, we sometimes think, well, maybe I can do a task slightly faster, or maybe I can shaving a few seconds here, a couple minutes there. But what would be the principles of truly time management? Because I do believe, and this is happening in the podcast before, that with concepts, with things like procrastination, self-awareness, mindful, all people sort of understand what they mean, but they don't understand the behaviors associated with it, or the principles of that specific concept. So, what would be the principles of time management, and what do we have wrong about it?
It's three simple, in my opinion, aspects or principles. And I also believe that everybody knows how to be successful. It's kind of like everybody knows how to lose weight or live a healthy lifestyle. Do we do it? Maybe not. Who is actually going to make you eat a healthier dinner or breakfast or go to the gym, or like there's all these hacks and techniques and tricks and tips of like, oh, you can sleep in your workout clothes and then you're going to, wake up and all of a sudden get to the gym. But no, like people are going to sleep in their workout clothes and then hit the snooze 16 times if they really don't want to go to the gym, and if they don't have the motivation or the mindset to actually get out of bed and go to the gym in the morning. And nothing out there is going to do that for you except for yourself. Something has to tweak inside you to make you want to go to the gym. The exact same thing is with time management. So, and as I said, it kind of boils down into 3 really easy principles. The first is focus. So super successful people, they are focused on that one end goal like a dog on a bone. They know what they want and they are not going to let anything get in between them and their goal. And how they spend, as I was saying, how they are spending their time and their day to day is extremely focused on that end goal. So if you are wanting to build a business and your goal is to break $1 million revenue by the end of the year, then everything that you are doing in a day-to-day should be focused on, are you moving the needle on that end goal? And whether you are doing that one task, say you've bottled it down to you have to send, and please don't quote me on any of these numbers, but like 100 cold emails a day. And sometimes that may take you the whole day. Sometimes maybe you have a list and a template and you can like bang them out really quickly and it can take you an hour. But the fact that you're actually focusing on that task that builds the end goal, that's what you want to focus on, and not necessarily, is it taking me a whole day or is it taking me an hour? I want to tell you a little story if I can.
Of
And
course, go for it.
it may help kind of bring this whole idea home for a lot of your listeners. So I talk a lot about how focus on the right goal is, in my belief, the true reason why people are successful and why people struggle with being successful. And I think that's a lot of the reason why new entrepreneurs struggle a lot with time management, is because they don't, and achieving their goals, because they don't understand what goal or what way to focus. And it's that shiny thing object where like, I'm focusing on this today, but I listened to this podcast and I was told to like now focus on this thing, so I'm going over here. Or you have this brilliant idea at 2 a.m. It happens to me all the time. I wake up with these like great ideas and then I want to implement them, but I lose track of that big goal. So and I talk about this all the time, and I've built 2 businesses now on the principle of focusing and trying as hard as I can to focus on tasks that are actually allowing me to complete something that is moving the needle for that big goal. However, I have 0 business background. I just want to say I started out in my working career as a roadie, as a personal assistant out on the road, following rock and roll musicians around, living on tour buses. And I just had this dream that I wanted to help more than one crazy rock star at a time. And I came off the road and no idea what I was doing, but had that focus and determination that I just wanted to help more than one people. Made a ton of mistakes, and we can get into those as I was growing and scaling my business, but always had that focus in my mind because I knew and I witnessed that that's what these celebrities were doing. When I was growing my second business which started in 2017, but really took a massive upward momentum in like 2020 to 2023, we were 13, 14 times in our business year over year. So massive, massive growth. We were bringing in, 600K MRR. And we started at like 20K MRR. So it was massive growth. What we didn't do, a ton of issues that I had as a leader. I was focusing on my goals and my momentum on how many clients we could bring in, and not necessarily, and like looking at the revenue and looking at all these exciting things, and not necessarily realizing that the goals that I should be focusing on were the foundations of the business that were going to sustain this growth. And the business collapsed. It collapsed at the end of 2023 to the point where it went from almost 500K MRR to 40K MRR. So massive collapse to the point where I thought I was going to have to shut everything down. And obviously I was really upset, and it took me a lot of time and like inner thoughts of like, what am I going to do? Is this right for me? Should I be doing this? How am I going to pay my mortgage? There was like a lot of really scary times until I went back to the fact of, okay, what do these successful people do? What did I do to get here? And what can I tweak? And it always came back to focus on the goal, on the end goal, but really understanding the right goal to focus on at the right time, and the right steps, or like the rhythm. If it's like a musical score that you're performing, you always have to play the right notes before each other. And I had skipped like a couple of pages. And so I think a lot of people, when they think about time management, they think about that end goal of like, I want to live this like massive work-life balance, or I want to shave these like extra, 20 minutes off of my day, or my goal is to make $1 million revenue, but it's not, I want to build a sustainable business so I can sustain the $1 million revenue. So they're like skipping some goals ahead. And as soon as I could actually figure out that I needed to build that foundation and work on the goals that built that foundation, I could build the business back up to, within 8 months, we built it back up to now 300K MRR from our massive collapse. So it's proof that anybody can do it. And that's why I say literally anybody can do it if you just understand what to focus on at the right time of the day.
I love that you share that story, because I think that a lot of people, including myself, suffer from that. Whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you get a lot of distractions, and you may have your main goal, and then you'll find the shining object, or you just find something else to focus on. And I don't know if you have read the book, either The War of Art, or do the work by Stephen Pressfield. He talks about a lot about the resistance, that when we are working towards a specific goal, something that is meaningful to us, our brains, our bodies will find something to distract us, to focus on. And because it is so painful to go through, it's so uncomfortable to go through what we need to do to accomplish the goal that is meaningful to us, that is easier for us to get distracted all the time. It happens to me all the time. If I need to do something that I know I have to do, but then I'll focus on other things that my brain will justify it as productive, or will justify it as something that, hey, by the way, this is also important, and we need to take care of this. But in reality, it's like, well, is that truly moving the needle? Well, maybe not. How do
It's
you do?
productive.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
called, sorry to interrupt. It's
Yeah,
called
yeah, go for it.
productive procrastination. So it's, doing all these things that we know that we aren't actually moving the needle, but you feel like you're busy. So a lot of like new entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs who aren't getting ahead, they'll go to bed at night and they'll be like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And then you're like, but what did I do today? Like, I worked really hard. I was at my computer for 18 hours, but what did I do? And then that's the productive procrastination. You're not actually focusing on the right things at the right time. Um, Tim Ferriss has a stat that he says a lot, and it is 99% of the population is okay with being mediocre. And it's exactly what you said. And 99% is a lot, but it's exactly what you said. It's hard to do a little bit better. Like, we're all kind of comfortable. So, what is pushing us to actually do a little bit better to achieve our goals and to not just be mediocre?
Yeah, and I think that the sad part is that most of those people who belong to the 99% are not aware of what's happening in their body. I mean, they truly think this is because it happened to me for years. Oh, I think that this is where I need to go. But in reality, deep inside, I knew that the task I needed to do in order to have a chance at being successful were different ones, but I was just avoiding them in a certain way. As somebody who has sort of have success as an entrepreneur, because even having like a six-figure business and having almost like collapse and then building back up, it is a sign of resilience and all of that. Were you able to manage or to figure out what things needed to pay your attention to, or to focus on? Because guess what, when we are starting in entrepreneurship, we have to wear so many different hats, and especially if we are by ourselves, it's like, okay, I could focus on so many different things and all of them seem important at first, but how can I gain clarity of the things I need to focus on?
Yeah, great question. And everybody is always wondering that, especially if you're like a solo founder, or actually not even a solo founder. People who run teams sometimes struggle with what do they focus on a day-to-day basis. So it all goes back to your goal, but it goes back to understanding what your goal is. But as I was saying, understanding if your goal is the right goal for this time. So really looking at the roadmap, like what is your end goal? And then what is your goal for this year? And does that align with building a sustainable business and allowing you to actually achieve your goal? Because achieving a $10 million business goal, $10 million a year business goal isn't just, I need to make more sales. There's like a lot of things that come into play, right? Like you need to have a great team, you need to have a great product, you need to have like, there's tons of things that you have to build in the process. So even saying like breaking down that $10 million a year big goal, or you want to exit your company for, $1 billion or whatever it is, and then just breaking it down, like dividing it by 5 is not going to help you. You have to be more strategic with your end goal, and with your like yearly goals and your quarterly goals, and really making sure that they are the right steps. So you're not taking step 5 and then step 1 and then step 37. Like you're really actually going step 1, 2, 3, 4 and building your goals. And then once you understand that, okay, I want this $100 million exit business, and I know that to do that, I need a really good team, a really good product. I need to have a really good story or whatever it is. And then breaking it down into, okay, this year is going to be the year that I test the market with this product. I grow my team by 2 main people so I can do this, and this, and always have reasons why you want to achieve that goal. So you're not just like, oh, it'll be fun to have 2 more people on my team. I don't have to work as much. No, like, is it to improve customer relations so you can then actually get more referrals and sell? Like, why are you building these things? And then once you have that really, really clear understanding, it's easy to figure out what you need to do on a day-to-day basis to move the needle on that goal. If you're building your team, 80% of what you do, and we've all heard probably the 80-20 rule, 80% of what you do on a day should be building that team. Is it, interviewing? Is it management training for yourself? Is it, and it can be it can be obscure reasons too. So building the team, you need more revenue to pay for them. So, okay, how am I gonna make payroll? Okay, well, I need more revenue, so I need to sell more products. So, it's like actually diving into those goals and making sure that you are moving the needle in the right way and the right steps. I think a lot of us get, like, as I said, like missteps, and will go off to that like really big high goal of like the whole reason why we started the company in the first place which is great. And that is great to hold on to. But that's going to confuse you on your day to day basis as you're really, really trying to focus on what moves the needle. A lot of people also tell me that, or I talk to them about how, and I totally get it. Like I run my own two businesses, and I do a lot by myself. I have a team now, but I did a lot of it by myself in the beginning. And I understand that on a day to day basis, like clients are bringing you problems that you have to then, like, you have to solve because they're the ones who are bringing in your money. Or, a team member might have an issue or quit, or like, there's always things that are kind of pulling you in these different directions that may not be helping you with your goal. But I like to also figure out like kind of the season I'm in, but not a season as in 3 month time. Like sometimes my seasons are only like this week. So like what is like my theme for this week? Is it trying to fix all the crap that happened last week? Okay, maybe that's what I have to do this week. Is it actually narrowing down everything I possibly can and focusing on sales? Okay, that's what I'm going to focus on. And it really helps you also when something comes to you, you can figure out like, is this important to me right now? Or is it important to me in 2 weeks from now? And I think that's really important to lean into as well.
Hmm. You said a lot of interesting things there. It sounds like, or at least what I got, especially for one of the few things you said at the beginning, is like once you get it very clear in your goal, your objective, your vision, then it is easy to see the very next step. You don't have to see 5 steps ahead or 10 steps ahead. I guess we tend to get ahead of ourselves trying to predict how we're going to behave or the things that we need to do in order to get from step 1 to step 10 or 15, right? And then we can only take one step at a time. And that's why you say, like, if you skip step, you might not build something sustainable. But also at the same time, it's just, yes, it's like most of us, if not every single person, is doesn't know what, we don't know what we're doing. Basically, we're just learning on the fly. And then problems will arise and issues, and then we will just have to find ways to maybe not obsessed with efficiency, but with solving the issues that uh, without letting them pile up, I guess, right? Because as you said, well, I mean, if I have a team and then I need to figure out a payroll, I need to do other things. Okay, what exactly, what fire do I need to put down first, and then just keep moving on? But one of the things that it has been an obsession of mine recently is like I don't want to speak for everyone, but it's definitely something that affects me, and I do, and I assume that a lot of people struggle as well. It's like we tend to overestimate what we can do, and at the same time underestimate the time that it will take us to complete a task or a goal. And this creates a lot of frustration and in some cases lack of confidence. I mean, we lose confidence because we think that we should be doing things faster. How can we get better at predicting more accurately how long a task is going to take, especially when it seems like everyone is just better and faster than us?
Yeah, it's true. And I don't like how you said it seems like everyone is better and faster than us, because that's like social media and telling us that I've created this business in 2.5 weeks, but like I've been creating my businesses since 2007, and like there's a lot of steps that social media skip. And so we compare ourselves to these people thinking that we aren't doing as well as them. But, they were in that season of their life as well. They just didn't show it on Instagram, for instance, or talk about it on a podcast. So I think one, making sure that you realize that you're not alone, that everybody goes through that when they're building their business. And there's no like, this task has to be built and this specific amount of time for you to be successful. It can take 3 years, it can take 3 months, it can take like completing it is what you need to do, right? So I think comparing yourself is the wrong situation to be in, and feeling that is probably also hurting your mindset as well, because you're always comparing yourself to others. And entrepreneurs need to have really, really strong mindsets to be able to continue doing what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Like, who else wakes up and goes, okay, I'm going to run into a brick wall 17 times today and then call that a day? That's entrepreneurship, right? So, it's like, you have to have that strong mindset, and comparing yourself to others is not helping you. But knowing like what you like time blocking basically, and knowing what tasks you are putting on the calendar and if you're completing them in time was basically your question. And so I always say that to-do list, I think, should be thrown out. I think that beats us up as human beings, because we always write our to-do list and then we like go out into the world or go onto your home office or wherever you're working, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get these like 16 things done that I wrote on my to-do list today. And then life happens and you get like 1.5 things done, and then you go home or you go to bed or whatever, and you're like, well, I'm a useless human being because I set out to do these 16 things and I only got 1.5 things done. The problem is that we don't know how long some things are going to take. We aren't being proactive. We're being reactive with our days, which is something that I think is very important for successful people to really understand, that proactivity is actually what drives success, and not sitting back and waiting for what fire to be put out. I read a really good quote, and it was something like, if you go out into reactive people, walk out into a rainstorm, where proactive people look at the weather report first. And it's the same thing when you're building a business, really understanding what you are getting into at what time. There should be no real surprises. You should know what's coming up. Yes, you're new. And yes, there's always things like, oh, I didn't plan for that. But they should be like in your day. So my biggest tip and hack that I like to do is I don't like to overcomplicate things. So for me, seeing everything in one place is really helpful for me, and not having to like click into a bunch of different productivity apps or even look at my phone, because sometimes if I pick up my phone, then I get distracted. I go down like the rabbit hole of social media when I really just wanted to see my to-do list or my productivity app that's on there. So I keep it all away from my phone. And I just use my simple Google Calendar, and I put every task that I possibly ever want to do on my Google Calendar, and then I time block it into specific times of day. And I understand which task is the most important for that day based on my goals. So if my goal is to, sign on 6 more clients this month, then obviously everything I want to do, every task that I need to do, should be based somewhere on, am I reaching out to clients? Am I talking to clients? Am I going to events? What are they? What are those tasks involved? And then I block them in my calendar, and I block them in a way. I know a lot of new entrepreneurs and ones that are doing running businesses themselves don't have the luxury of saying like, I can block a whole morning, because sometimes you have to take sales calls when you have to take sales calls. But I block them in between. So I know, tomorrow I'll look at my calendar for tomorrow and I see, okay, I have an hour in between this call and I have a 2-hour block at this time. Maybe I can get up a little earlier. And these are the most important tasks that I want to do. And I put them on my calendar. And understanding that a task takes 30 minutes and not an hour is all practice. A lot of us think that it will take an hour, and sometimes it does take an hour. Sometimes tasks take as long as we give them. Sometimes they take a lot more. Sometimes they take less. So, and that is all practice. I know that if I want to send out a cold email campaign now, it takes me, and I have a list, it takes me 2.5 hours, depending on the size. But I just know it. And I know it because I've done it. Before, I used to think it only would take me 30 minutes. So it's just consistently timing yourself, not getting frustrated with yourself, and understanding that it's a habit that you're building and forming.
Yeah, not getting frustrated with yourself. That is that is a tough one, but an essential one, right? Because we all will get frustrated at ourselves. Yeah, and at the beginning, I specifically said it seems like because that's everyone's perception or a lot of people's perception. Because as you said, we compare ourselves to others and we think that it should take us less or just everyone is like way further ahead of us. And I like to and another reason why I like ask the question because I wanted to help people just gain that awareness. And I like the way that you answer. It's like, yes, we might see things out there that we don't know exactly the backstory, how long it took, or anything like that. You just focus on you, on yourself, and the fact of I've hearing this quite a bit. The fact of not using a to do list because then we feel like we're worthless because we didn't achieve or we didn't accomplish like whatever 14, 15, 16 tasks, and having that self-compassion is like, okay, it is okay, right? Today I might accomplish two, tomorrow might be seven, but then the next day might be only one. I don't know, right? It's just having that. I don't know who said it, but somebody said I would rather be consistently good than occasionally great. And it just having those one step at a time. But one thing that you talk about a lot, and we have touched a few times, is about goals, right? Goal settings. And we all have goals, big and smalls, but it seems like only a small percentage of the population get to achieve them. Why do you think that's the case, and what are we doing wrong?
I think it all boils down to mindset. And going back to what we talked about, that stat of 99% of people are okay with being mediocre. So we set our goals, but sometimes, all the time, something is hard in that goal. And we're like, I don't know if that's for me anymore. And it just all boils down to mindset. Also, I think as a population, we're extremely impatient. So we set a goal and sometimes we know that this goal is going to, let's say our goal is we want to lose 40 pounds and we want to do it by the end. We're giving ourselves a year and a half to lose it. Okay, cool. Like that's a good goal. And maybe it's, a fast time frame for some people or whatever. But, the first month or 2 months, maybe you'll lose a pound and then maybe you'll gain 4 pounds, even though you are doing all the right things. And we're impatient and we don't see that like consistency and sticking to the plan and sticking to the focusing and sticking to the task at hand is actually going to allow us to achieve that goal. And we're like, well, month is up. I'm going to go eat a box of cookies. And it's the same with any goal that we set in business. Sometimes we can set that goal of, selling our business for $1 billion or, whatever it is. And, we get to that point where we're like going backwards and we're like, well, I guess this goal isn't for me anymore. And we're impatient. We're not ready to, go work through the hard. And I do a lot of like keynote presentations and podcasts. And I always say that I could sum up all of this time management, goals, everything we're talking about in 4 words. Sometimes, if I'm allowed to swear, I will say 5 words, but I will say 4 words today. And it is just do the thing. That's all we have to do. It's just how can you as an individual actually do the thing? You said it. We all know how to get there. We all know the tasks that we have to take to get there. How can we force our body through the hard to get there? And as soon as you figure out that tweak and that hack for you, you are going to be a huge success in whatever goal that you are trying to achieve. And it's a mindset. It's all a mindset. It's how can I get myself out of bed to go to the gym? How can I force myself to sit down and do this incredibly boring job of sending 100 cold emails a day? How can I force myself to go to more networking events because I am so shy and I do not want to get in the car and go to that event? We all know we have to, right? You're smiling.
Yeah. I mean, I hate networking events. I know. I mean, even when you mentioned networking, I just already felt anxious. I was like, yeah, I hate those. But it's true. I understand. I mean, it has a lot to do with mindset. And I was interviewing a professor from Princeton, probably 3 4 months ago, and he talks a lot about procrastination. But he said that a lot of people, and I felt identified with this, like they attach ability to self-worth. That's why we
Yeah.
all kind of like, we're okay being mediocre. It's like, it is so, if we can detach ourselves from the ability we could have today to our self-worth, then we might, and that's a lot with growth mindset. Carol Dweck and her book and all that is almost about, it doesn't determine our worth in society. And if we can just get or bypass that, the body safety mechanism, I guess, to protect us to some extent, then we might be able to just get the ball rolling and build some momentum. But again, if doing the thing is hard, and when we fail and we don't do it well and we don't do it quick and we don't do it efficiently, we don't see results, then that's when we feel like crap. I don't want to do this. I'm going to move on. But I want to talk to you
And
about
we don't give it enough time too. Like people will tell me I'm bad at time management. And I always say, well, like how long have you been trying to, like what are you doing for time management? And then they'll say, I'm time blocking. Well, how long have you been time blocking for? 2.5 weeks. Well, of course you're bad at it, right? So you have to, building any sort of time management habit or goal setting habit or whatever it is, it's a habit. You know, you're not going to go run on a treadmill for, an hour and think that you're going to lose 20 pounds. That would be nice, but it's not going to happen. It's the same with any time management or any business skill that you're learning. If you say you always procrastinate and you're like, yeah, I tried to procrastinate for like last week, but it didn't work. Well, you only gave it a week because it got hard and because you're impatient.
Yeah, that's been me, or I've been changing in the last year or two. But to me, I would give something, even as simple as naming 3 things I'm grateful for, or whatever, and trying to build that habit and that feeling. I would try for a month, like, okay, I don't see any results. This is not working for me. I'm gonna try something else. But again, not giving enough time to see how things could improve, could work out, and get better.
I
And
think
impatient.
also understanding why you are doing that, because I fell into that exact same trap of when my business like collapsed. I was trying everything. I knew not to, but my subconscious was like, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, I'm going to try everything, because I was panicking. I was flailing to try and get my business back up on the ground, above water. And I did the gratitude thing, because if you go online, everybody tells you write 3 things you're grateful for in the morning. Right? You're laughing. And it's the
Yeah.
thing. Like everyone, so I did it, but I did it to do it. I didn't lean into why people were telling me and the backstory and what I get out of it. I literally did it. I would write 3 things. I would check it off of my to-do list and I'd be like, all right, let's get on to this really crappy day. Because at that point, it was all really crappy to me. And then I'd be like, well, gratitude didn't work. But it was because I actually wasn't leaning into, like, why do people say to be grateful for something? And it's because, again, it's a mindset shift. And whatever you have to do to get into that mindset, whether it is writing 3 things you're grateful for, whether it's looking ahead and a vision board, like it's all very different for everybody. And practicing those and forming those as routines, that's what you have to lean into and not just doing it to do it.
Yeah, I think, and one of the biggest issues with those kind of things is like we lack the understanding of the true why people are saying. It's like ex- explain me like I'm five exactly why. Well, because that if you do it with intention, it will change your brain biochemistry. You will feel better, and you'll start focusing on the positive rather than the negative. But people just say just write 3 things you're grateful for. Okay, and then without explaining exactly what you're supposed to be looking for doing that exercise, and that applies to almost anything. So people, and no wonder why we give up doing things, because we don't even know exactly what we're doing. We're just following advice that it might work for some people, but without having the backstory. So I mean, I get it. And one of the things I really wanted to ask you about goal setting, and I think that besides, you mentioned that most people are mediocre or they struggle with this and all of that. We all have our goals in our head. It's like we sort of know what we want to do, what we want to get. And I listened to or read somewhere that we should write them down. So I tried like a year and a half ago. I sat down on the couch and I started writing them down. What's the most uncomfortable and painful thing I went through? I was like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. If it's in my head, why is it so painful to put it on paper? Well, because that is almost like holding yourself accountable. You know that if you, it makes it more real once you put it on a piece of paper, and then it's up to you. If you don't accomplish it, it's on you, and that is I guess is a threat to your ego or the self, and then on your self-worth. How I remember stopping that for, and then I had to go back in like in a month, just because I felt so uncomfortable. What have you learned about goal setting, and how can we do these things in a way that is not as painful, and or what are techniques that has helped you to establish your goals and achieve them?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. You said everybody has a goal at some point, and I always thought that too. And I do a lot of like workshops and keynote presentations, and I always get people to tell me like to write down their goal. And I would say every other time I'm at the one of these workshops, somebody in the audience will tell me, "What if you don't know your goal? What if you don't have a goal?" And at the beginning, that would always, it would leave me speechless. I would be like, how do you not have a goal in life? And then I realized that like I'm a very type A personality, and that's why I have goals. I set them because I want to achieve them. And I was like, oh yeah, not everybody is like me. Oh yeah. So it was a really kind of eye-opening time for me. And now I'm ready to answer that. But at first I was like, I don't know. How do you not have a goal? So I think that again, understanding that even if you don't have a goal, or if you think that a goal has to be like something big and huge, like I want to, retire by the time I'm 25, or, all these like big, massive goals. If you don't have one of those, then you're not like normal. And that's not a thing. Like a goal can be you want to be the best parent that you can be. It could be you want to be the best volunteer at your, whatever group. It could be you want to be the best neighbor in your community. A goal can be as simple as you just want to, learn how to breathe, after a hard conversation instead of jumping in. Like it can be any little thing. And those are not little, those are big goals. So I always ask people, like, if you were just to sit and envision your life, if it was like perfect, nothing was, happening, if you could just plop yourself down into your most perfect life, what would that be? And you don't have to think of all of it right now. You can think of just, maybe one little thing, like what is the couch that I want to be sitting on? Or what city do I want to be in? Or who do I want to be around me? Or maybe I don't want anybody around me. Like all those little things you can think of. And then form your goals back from that. So I feel like when you were struggling with your big goal, you weren't necessarily picturing your ideal life or the life that you want to live. You were maybe picturing it more like tactical, like I want to be out of debt, or I want to be a millionaire, or I want to have this big house, or the best podcast, which are awesome goals, but it's not necessarily built into your life. And if it was built into your life, I'm willing to bet that it wouldn't be as scary because then it's personal to you. It's not like you're kind of, like an alien dropping down into somebody else's life with this big goal. So first, imagine your life. And it doesn't even have to be in 15, 20, 25 years. It can be next week. Like, if I was in my perfect life next week, what would that look like? And then thinking about the goals then. I also think that people will form a big goal and get scared of it because it's too far out. So if you form a 10-year goal, 10 years seems like a really long time. It's actually interesting. So I just got my passport renewed. I don't know when this is going to air, but I got my passport renewed in 2024. And it's a 10-year passport. And seeing on the passport expiry 2034, I can't wrap my head around the fact that there is a 2034 and I will probably be alive at that time. Knock on wood, God willing. But it just seems like so futuristic to me. And I think that's the problem with goals is when you're setting them for 10 years, it's just too far away. So bring them in a bit more. What's my goal for this year, this quarter, this week? And I think it will really help you form and not be as scared with writing down the big kind of end goals.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I was trying to remember when you were giving the answer. I was trying to remember exactly why it was so uncomfortable, it was so painful, it was hard. And I think because when I started writing them down, it's in my head, right? I mean, immediately, it was I don't even know how I'm gonna get to this goal. Of course, I'm not. I mean, that's supposed to be a goal. I mean, it's a step after step after step. But I felt so overwhelmed. I like to use this metaphor a lot when it comes to goal setting, especially when I started my own podcast and all of that. It's I'm on ground level. My goal it could be on the 20th floor, and I see just such a massive gap between where I am and where I want to be, and then I have no idea how I'm gonna get there. I have no clue, and we tend to get overwhelmed. As you said, I never put a goal in a time I want to be retired by the age of 40 or 50, but because I cannot, time doesn't work for me because it could take me a lot longer or it could take me less time. So it is hard for me, as you said, it's 2034. That is bro, I mean, I don't even know where I'm going to be here in 5 years. So it's
yeah,
10 it would be too much. So I get it, I understand, and then I like that approach, trying to break it down in small chunks, and then just start stacking those small wins, small goals, achievements, and then you can slowly work towards your big goal.
It's interesting you said you're down here on the ground floor and my goal's up here on the 20th floor. But if you think about it in that metaphor, there's multiple ways to get up to the 20th floor. So there's nothing that should be stopping you from getting up there. You can take the stairs, you can take the elevator, you can crawl outside the building if you want to, like, go another direction.
Yeah.
You can, like, helicopter in from the top and, like, go down the stairs. Like, there's, so many different ways to get to the 20th floor. So it shouldn't be scary and overwhelming. It should be exciting to think about it that way, of like, there's so many ways in this world that I can get to my big goal. And what am I going to choose today to get there?
Yeah, I think that reframing is one of the biggest things in life. If you can reframe anything in life, then you can just have a different emotional response to it, and then tackle that task or any struggles you have in a better way, rather than just suffer and struggle and be overwhelmed by it. No, Tara, as I've been having such a wonderful conversation with you, I've learned a lot. But as a closing question, how can we hold ourselves accountable when we start a journey? And this could be as a solopreneur, or we want to lose weight, or we want to find a partner, whatever the goal might be. When Because let's be honest, we are by ourselves. So if we do the work, nobody will care. If we don't do the work, guess what? Nobody would care either. And at the same time, how can we develop a balance between pushing ourselves and having some sort of kindness or compassion towards ourselves, which is going to give us, at the end of the day, a higher chance of achieving success?
Yeah, I think it boils down to, and I see this all in the celebrities that I support, is creating your own motivation. So no one is going to hold you, as you said, accountable except for yourself. No one is going to care as much about your own big goals that you've set out for yourself, except for yourself, as you do, right? You are your biggest critic. You are your biggest person to
Che-
celebrate. Oh,
Cheerleader, yeah.
cheerleader. Thank you. I was like, there's something in there. But it's true, right? So, and every successful person that I have been around, they create their own motivation. A lot of times we think that, say athletes, they get up and they, want to run the, like, however many miles they run every single morning, rain or shine, and that's what they want. But if you actually talk to athletes, they're like, hell no, I don't want to run. There's some mornings that I just want to stay in bed. Like, it's raining. I don't want to put my running shoes on. It's cold. Like, I'm not going outside. But they get up and do it because they know that like one extra step is helping them get towards their own goal, and they are creating their own motivation. And professional athletes, I believe, are the best example and like setting a goal and achieving a goal, because they understand that you just have to do that. A lot of people will say, like, make your bed in the morning, and I don't care what you do, but I like that if you make your bed, you can be like, okay, I did something, and, like, I'm on the right track. I told myself I'm going to make my bed when I woke up in the morning, and I made my bed, and, like, now is going to be a good day. Like, I'm creating my own motivation. Motivation is just a series of, like, small wins that compound over time. There's no lightning strike moment that's going to happen. And you're only as successful as you allow yourself to be. So if you set yourself up for failure, like if you say, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning and I am going to clear out my inbox, and you hit snooze and you wake up at 8 a.m. and then you don't have time to clear out your inbox, you're only failing yourself. And so it's just getting into that mindset that, like, no one's coming to save you. No one's creating this motivation for you. It's you. And you have to figure out those tricks and techniques to get through that hard. When I've been struggling in my business, I have known that I need to create my own motivation, and I hate myself for it, because I want a trick. I want a hack. I want something that will make it easier. But there's nothing out there. You can log your habits and, don't break the chain. Like, there's thousands of ways to help you, but there's nothing that's going to do it except for you. And you have to be the one to actually create your own motivation. There's also something that we touched on a little bit, and it is giving yourself grace and allowing yourself to have a bad day. And I think a lot of times we think that we're failures or we're not going to ever be good enough because we had a really bad day. Like we had a day that just beat us up, but we know that we have to keep continuing and, we have to keep pushing forward or else nothing's going to get done. And, some days it's okay to be like, today's not the day for me. Like I tried. Nothing seems to be going right. I am just going to give up for today. I am going to go to bed early or, binge whatever on the couch for a little bit. And I'm going to start again tomorrow. And that's okay. Nobody is perfect. Nobody out there has, perfect days every single day. And I think like comparing ourselves to the people out there, like the David Goggins of the world who we see are always doing these, like, he has bad days too. And like everybody does. So I think it's just giving yourself grace to have those bad days. I also like to, one final thought is I like to always reflect back on my day, no matter how tired I am and no matter how bad the day was, for literally a minute. Sometimes it's longer if I want to, but when I crawl into bed at night, I will ask myself, did I do one thing today that was hard? Because I truly believe that growth happens in the hard parts of your life. So did I do one thing today that was hard? Usually because I'm a founder, there's a lot of things that are hard. And then I always think like, did I take one step forward? And it doesn't have to be a big step. It could be the tiniest little step. But did I take one step forward towards my goal? And if I say yes, then no matter to those two things, then no matter how crappy my day was, I actually go, okay, today was a good day.
I love that. And it's true. I mean, as you said, nobody's gonna come and save us. Nobody's gonna come and be our cheerleader. I remember when I decided to launch this podcast last year, and my goal was to release the first episode the first week of January. I remember a few friends and family because I was stressed in December because I was just learning on the fly. I was trying to figure it out, whatever. And all of them told me, it's like, well, you don't have to release it the first week of January. I mean, nothing's going to happen. You could release it in February. It's like, no, I told myself I was going to do it, and I have no idea how, but I'm going to do it because I'm trying to keep that promise to myself and keeping my own word. Another thing you said, which I loved it, is even making the bed, we tend, and me, I'm one of those, and I'm trying to get better at it. We tend to dismiss our wins, even if no matter how big or small they are. It's like, well, it wasn't a big deal. I want to accomplish something bigger. It's like, well, you need a reassurance that you are good at what you're doing, or that you are having a good day, or just having the small things, even when you're depressed or anxious or whatever. Even brushing your teeth, making your bed, cooking yourself food, those are small wins that we tend to dismiss just because it seems like everyone else could do it. But as you said, we have bad days, and as sometimes we have bad seasons, like 1 week or a month. And I love that thing at the end when you ask yourself what hard thing you did that specific day. I have something similar when I'm in the. I have a post-it note on my bathroom mirror, and when I'm brushing my teeth at night, it says, uh, "What went well today?" So instead of focusing on things that I didn't do, it's like, okay, what can I find something that went well today? Anything, and then I can just focus on this, and then be more at peace when I go to bed.
Yeah. And that's the basically you writing the three things that you're grateful for, just doing it in a way that works for you, which is really cool. And what everybody, I think if anybody can take anything away from what we talked about is time management, goal setting. You can Google a million things, but it's actually forming the habits that work for you as an individual and what phase you are in your life.
Yeah, a lot of trial and error until you'll find something that works for you. Tara, lovely conversation. a lot of knowledge, a lot of valuable things. But where can people find you, work with you, anything?
Yeah, so my company is called Take It Easy Group. We're takeiteasygroup.com. And on socials, I am Tarra with two R's, Tara's Time. I'm on LinkedIn as well. And I know I talk a lot about working with like high profile, high net worth individuals, but I am truly passionate in helping anybody achieve their goals. So I have a lot of ways to work with me, whether it is, one-on-one coaching at a lower ticket item, or if you have a larger business and are really looking for that strategic support as well. So reach out. I am always more than happy to answer any questions I can. Again, I am just really passionate and about anyone living that life that they want to live.
Perfect. Yes. All of the links are going to be on the video, show notes, YouTube description. And Tara, was a pleasure having you on the podcast. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I had such a great time.